Well, one of the most hotly contested championships unfortunately comes to an end today. We've battled our way around the globe featuring both endurances and sprint races. The IMB World Series League's GT3 Championship for the Europeans ends here with round 10 in Sebring. We take to the final round and the final endurance round as well to take you through three incredible championships. My name is Zach Sweeney. Alongside me will be Ewan O'Leary in the commentary booth with Daniel Costello pointing the cameras in the right directions. And, well, Ewan, it must be said that this season has had its thrills and it's been a really good one to indulge in.
It has, and we've got three exciting championships that can still all be won and lost here tonight as well, which is absolutely fantastic news for us, albeit they are quite spaced out at this stage. It is fairly unlikely, I think, that we'll be seeing championship leaders change here today, but you never know, and that's what we've got coming up here. 75 minutes of racing around the bumps of Sebring, and one final hurrah in this championship. Season 5 of the IMB World Series League's GT3 Championship. Brought to you live once again here this evening. Very much looking forward to it here, Zach. As I mentioned, we're not expecting to see any of the championships change, unfortunately. But there is still going to be pressure on because, after all, the drop rounds are in the past now. That's all been dealt with. And any mistakes will be caught up with here today. Let's have a look at the pro standings to really see where we're at. 20 points, the margin between Stuart Rounds and Chris Charlton. Hacken and Mo can still win as well, but probably needs Reynolds and Charlton to finish or not score any points by not finishing the first half of the race. Kai DL is 4th, just ahead of Harry Wills. That probably stay the same here today with Taylor Lane 6th. Ahead of John Williams, Jason Dilworth, Lucas Romano and Johannes Traub, the top 10 in the pro standings there, Zach. 20 points, it should be enough for Reynolds as long as he gets to halfway here tonight.
Absolutely. Realistically, he only needs to finish 6th or above, and that is with a 5-car pro field. So as long as he gets to 50%, championship's in the bag, which I think he thoroughly deserves it. He's had a fantastic season, but that's not to say that things can't change.
Things certainly can change here with Lewis Boubier and Ivo van der Linden separated by only 17 points. Lewis Boubier needs a top 5 to guarantee the title. Any lower than that, and it's up to Ivo van der Linden to take advantage. Dean Timms is still mathematically involved, but as with previous, does need Boubier and van der Linden not to finish. Same with Timothy Vanderbroek, really, who was also involved at 54 points back and at 64 points back. Jean Breitenbach is also involved mathematically, but needs all 4 of the drivers in front of him probably to DNF today, which is looking unlikely. Thomas Pugh only has a point over Francois Peugeot, with Marcel Breitenbach over 100 ahead of Chris Thacker. Stuart Reiners rounding out the top 10 of the Pro-Ams. And finally, in the AM standings, this is the biggest gap we have between 1 and 2. It's Sam Van Ruler who has been dominating this season. He's got 36 points ahead of Carl Pearce. Jerome Rains is a good 47 back as well. Those 3 are the ones that can win the title. Jarmo Sestermoen in 4th, ahead of Kurt van Hoornacker. Then it's Tony van der Linden, who I believe has taken pole for this category today. James Slate 7th, ahead of Matthias de Groot, and then it's Navarro de Boiver and Jorn Polinus inside the top 10. It's very much the Pro-Am standings, I think, Zach, where we're going to have a lot of interest today, because there's 10 entries, half of the field made up with that category. And if Lewis Boubier finishes outside the top 5, then there's a chance for Ivo van der Linden to take advantage.
Yeah, he's going to have to win, though. That is the bottom line, is if he wants any chance, it is going to be victory, I think, for Ivo van der Linden, just to put his best foot forward, end on the highest high possible, and then hope that something goes amiss in terms of Lewis Boubier's race, finishing outside the top 5, not finishing at all, potentially, as well. So yeah, with the biggest field, that means there's the highest likelihood that something could go wrong. But Lewis Boubier, of course, will be feeling the pressure. Fell short of the AM Championship last season and has really set the ground running in terms of the Pro-Ams. He's going to be looking to want to seal it out. But, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see how it goes. Only time will tell with 75 minutes of racing around Sebring.
Yeah, it's the location for our finale this season, as we've added in some endurance rounds to our events here on this occasion. 1 hour 15 it translates to, which is the same amount of racing as you'd get from a normal weekend or a normal evening, but just not split up into 2 races on this occasion. So it's just going one long one all the way through. I think form definitely does go in Boubier's favour, though, as we just saw him there. He has won 2 out of the 3 endurance rounds so far here this season, and that's put him in good stead for the race here today, and that would mean as well those couple of wins that I believe anyway he would win on countback if the two happen to be tied on points, which would happen if Boubier finishes 5th and Van der Linden finishes 1st. They'd be tied on points, but I believe Boubier would take it on countback. That's when things do start to get complicated, because we well, it just does. It's going to be a bit of a palaver, and I hope it doesn't get to that, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it if we need to. Just a minute left in practice then, and we've got 5 pro drivers out front as well. You just saw Chris Chatterton there. He's very much got a mountain to climb today if he wants to take this title.
Again, yeah, he is sort of riding on, hoping for a miracle more so than anything. But again, like I said with Ivo van der Linden, I think his best bet is just to go out there and win. Easier said than done, obviously, but if he wants any chance, it is going to be to take victory, take any points that he possibly can from today, and then just hope. Do everything in his power, and then hope for a miracle. At least then he can leave today knowing that in terms of the championship finale, he's done all that he can in order to win the championship. And it's at this point where Chris Chatterton is going to be thinking, you know what, back in Long Beach or, you know, back at Silverstone, it's like, well, I could have scored a couple more points here and there, could have done this and that. And looking back in hindsight, he might be kicking himself. But he's got to play with the cards he's been dealt. He's got to play with the 20 points deficit that he's got. I think maybe he's probably more content with second place. And if the championship happens, it happens. If Chris Chatterton is hoping or expecting the championship tonight, then, well, I'm sure he's probably going to be expecting to be disappointed.
I think he might well end up being, indeed, which is unfortunate. But really, the damage is done in that round. I think it was the last round where drop rounds were still included, where he was not able to attend for whatever reason, and that's cost him, I think, a little bit in the end. And of course, being ill last week has cost him a few points in the championship, so wasn't quite on top form at Daytona. Let's have a look at the grid then for the final time this season. Stuart Reynolds and Chris Chatterton, the two championship protagonists, the main ones anyway in pro, lining up on the front row with Kai Diel and Hakan Lindmo behind. Harry Wilds rounding out the pros, with Lewis Boubier getting off to the best possible start in Pro-Am. Timothy van der Broek alongside Chris Thacker and Dean Timms on row 2. Ivo van der Linden is 5th ahead of Jean Breitenbach, who is 6th. And then moving a little bit further down, it's Francois Peugeot and Marcel Breitenbach and Simon Dodd and Thomas Pugh to round out our most numerous category tonight. Carl Pearce is ahead of Tony van der Linden on the front row of the AMs, with championship leader Sam Van Ruler 3rd. Jeroen Reigns, Dioma Sistermoinen and Conor Kinnaird round out the 6 AMs for this grid here tonight. 21 cars and plenty of them still available to win a championship, but with the margins we have at the moment, it does seem that it's going to be a struggle to see those change over the course of the next 75 minutes. But it's the last hurrah, and for everybody else here, Zach, the pressure's kind of off here at a circuit that everybody will know relatively well. It's an endurance round, anything can happen, and so everybody's in it to win it here, and for some of them, it's just going to be about having fun here on this final day.
Absolutely. End the season on a high. For the 3 championship leaders, obviously don't throw things away, don't be too aggressive. But apart from that, you know, the other, 18 cars, sorry, having a bit of a wrong moment with maths. The other 18 cars, apart from the 3 championship leaders, are probably going to be out there to have a bit of fun, throw the cars up the inside, get as many points as they can, and then try and maximise their points all from today, and well, end the season on a high. Go into maybe season 6 with the confidence that potentially, you know, you've come off the back of a race win from the previous season. But that remains to be seen. I think go out there, have fun, end the season on a high, and if you come up with a championship, come up with a championship.
Yeah. If you get there, you get there, and that's the kind of mentality there we go with. Because this circuit is very, very famous across the motorsport world, mainly, Jack, for having horrendous bumps around this circuit, having never been resurfaced in the past, as we all know. It's a surface that's been chewed up tremendously ever since it was, I believe, disused at an airfield back in the day. I'm guessing that's why. It's become a racetrack and whatever. Although don't fact check me on that, because or do, but yeah, it'd be nice. It's one of those airfield racetracks, and that does provide a lot of challenge around here for these GT3s. It's not really generally a problem, but it does make this race quite a physical one. And given that there's still 75 minutes of racing tonight, but it's not 2 races, there's not that break in the middle. It could be quite a physically demanding one for everybody as well, and one where mistakes are going to be punished with the lack of runoff you've got around most of this circuit.
Absolutely. The bumps to Sebring, pretty much the only thing it's really got going for it in terms of difficulty. Then obviously you've got Sunset Bend, which to be fair, it's a corner of like a million different lines. So that again does throw a spanner into the mix, but very easy for the cars to bottom out here. Very easy for them to destabilize not only over the bumps, but also over the curbs. So very much as a driver's track, you've got to be focused for 100% of the 75 minutes, get your head down and get on with it. While it's a quote unquote endurance round of only 75 minutes, as you say, it is going to be quite physically demanding if your force feedback is turned up and if you're not used to running for 75 minutes at a time. I think it is going to be quite interesting and, well, expect a few mistakes.
Yeah, it's going to be a big challenge over the course of the day, and we'll be able to check in with plenty of the drivers as well with the onboard cameras we've been provided with today. We'll go through those a little bit later on because some fantastic views up and down the grid of quite what we're dealing with here this evening. But for the final time, it is going to be Stuart Reynolds who gets us underway. There is Chris Chatterton on the outside of the front row, getting himself ready for the finale here this season, and in the Prestana Nomad team gear as well. I'm slightly disappointed that it's not that same shade of bright blue / green, whatever you'd call that colour. But anyway, we'll make do, repping the team colours at the moment, and we'll be looking for a title today. The pace car pulls in for the final time, and the IMB World Series League's GT3 Championship is about to roar into life for another endurance round. Over the line here at Sebring, Stuart Reynolds waiting an awful long time here to get us underway, and now he'll finally go. That's allowing his teammate Kyle to get down the inside of his championship rival. Chris Chatterton pushed to the outside of turn one. He won't get through. They'll have to just tuck in behind at the moment with Hagen Lindmo and Harry Wills side by side into turn three. That all gets very close as Chatterton nearly gets rear-ended by the two Mercedes who are battling hard into the first corner. It's time for the Pro-Ams, where it's BMWs who reign, and Louis Boubier who's taken pole, and he's taken the early start as well. Single filing towards turn one for himself, Vanderbroek and Thacker, as Eva van der Linden tries to make up some positions back in the pack. He's not able to do so in towards turn one. And over the line for the AMS as well. Carl Pearce, the only leader to be starting on the outside by the looks of things. And he'll have to go side by side with Tony van der Linden, who's been absolutely mugged on the early start here, with Sam Van Ruler right round his outside through turn one. Carl Pearce takes the lead in that one, and they will race down towards turn three as well. Relatively clean start, Zach, but we are hearing that Harry Wills has been off on this opening lap.
Yeah, 13 odd second gap back to, or up to Haken Limo, I should say. And there is Haken Limo himself having a bit of an off. So the bottom two in terms of the pros are off the road. Limo rejoins. Is he still going to be ahead of Wills after all of that? A tap to the barrier. That is going to be a long 75 minutes if he stays with. But at least Harry Wills has got some company. The top three, however, unfazed and all bunched up together in the opening moments.
They are. This is very close through Le Mans, but a bit wide from Kaidiel. He's all over the grass. Chatterton not really close enough to benefit from that. So Limo and Wills now a long way away. That kind of makes the job even more difficult for Chatterton. But then again, Reynolds would still win the championship with a top five here. So after all, it is about going to be getting to that 50% mark. But with such a championship lead, I don't think Reynolds is going to be taking things cautiously here. He wants to win this race because he knows there is, despite being in this championship lead on the final day, he knows there is very little pressure.
Absolutely. He's just going in this with a clean mind. This is how Harry Wills went round. That is Haken Limo he's side by side with, going through. A bit unstable, as you can see. Car, maybe the tyres not up to temperature enough. Maybe just the car still not being able to grip up over the grass. And once you get to that point, you are, unfortunately, a bit of a passenger. Back to the Pro-Ams, however, and Ivo van der Linden, well, he's going to be wishing he could swap positions at the moment with Louis Boubier and then hope that Sean Brendan can get into the mix. He's, 4 places lower than he needs to be.
He needs to be winning this race ideally, and even then needs things to go his way with Louis Boubier, who is having a couple of technical problems at the moment. I think there's internet issues going on down there, which is really hurting him right now. But hopefully that's all right. Sam Van Ruler gets to the lead from Carl Pearce as well. I think that was through turn one and down towards turn three as well, and they're still battling over it side by side. It is through turn one indeed, and Carl Pearce has won that position back, although Sam Van Ruler tries to go down the inside at turn three. He'll just run out of space on the inside there.
He will indeed. Sam Van Ruler has never been one really to qualify incredibly well. It's not often that we do see him on pole position, particularly in recent times, but his pace to ascend through the field is second to none. Carl Pearce, of course, wanting to ride on the hope that maybe Sam Van Ruler doesn't get to half distance and he can win and maybe take the championship, but maybe just more so trying to win the final race of the season and secure second place in the championship. Sam Van Ruler, however, been told that he might be doing something a little bit different on strategy. He didn't tell me exactly what, he just told me to look out. So maybe his strategy is go aggressive, which, well, if it's not, I'm quite confused as to why he's pushing so hard in the opening moments. But so far, so good in terms of a little bit of an early lead fight for the AMs.
Good battle to watch, certainly. This is a little bit of a replay going back in the race here of the Pro-Am start. Did notice that I think it's Marcel Breitenbach who's off the road and has dropped down. And it's an incident with Thomas Pugh, who's just clipped him through turn 4. That's a difficult one there, Zach, really, because everybody's running out of space through that tricky section of corners. And I think that incident is a little bit more unfortunate than anything.
Yeah, just wrong place, wrong time, I think, more than anything. Not really much more either car could have done, apart from, you know, slowing down a little bit more and allowing more space, but they're racing drivers in the opening laps, so they really want to do that. Carl Pearce, however, is under a bit of pressure from Sam Van Ruler. He moves it back to the racing line and covers off his bases. Sam Van Ruler is trying to put a lot of pressure on, having a bit of a look to the outside, not really much there, but yeah, in terms of that incident, yeah, I think it was just unfortunate, you know, a pinch point more than anything through that tight and twisty bit while you're trying to brake and turn all at the same time. Just a shame that it ended that way, unfortunately, but you got to continue. It's just going to be quite a long race for those involved.
It will be for those, unfortunately. Here is the second place battle in Pro. KDL just ahead of Chris Chatterton right now, with Twisted Racing Team and Preston and Nomad respectively through Tower Corner. Not even pushing the boundaries there, indeed. Chris Chatterton not getting wide at all. He's looking to apply that pressure at the moment to DL, but the longer this goes on and the more pressure is put on there, the more that Reynolds is likely going to get away here. It's certainly in the favour of the race leader at the moment. The gap a second and a half, and the more they do this, the more that Reynolds will get away. But even without the battle, to be fair, Reynolds does look strong right now and maybe the class of the field.
Absolutely. He has done pretty much for the majority of the season in both sprint and endurances. He's been so good. So as long as I think he is going to be his own worst enemy today. The only way he's going to lose this is if he messes it up on his own accord. Fortunately, he has got his teammate at KDL to sort of hold up as a rear gunner relative to Chris Chatterton hold him up, so Stuart Reynolds can get a nice bit of breathing space. Stuart Reynolds has got to be careful not to get too complacent, push the limits a bit too much, and maybe find himself in the barriers. But even if that is the case, even if he does get into the barriers, he's going to be straight back to pit lane and repair, hopefully in time to at least complete half distance, because as long as that's the case, the championship is his anyway. As soon as we get to 37.5 minutes, he'll be absolutely fine. But well, he wants to go out on a high. He's a race driver, Stuart Reynolds. There's no better way to win a championship than with a race win as well.
Yeah, certainly. This is the split screen we've got now, and it's looking fantastic indeed. The leading battle in AM with the second place battle in Pro as well. I have to say that Sam Van Ruler is looking a little bit more threatening to Carl Pearce than Chris Chatterton is to KDL at the moment. It was side by side through Sunset Bend a couple of laps ago for the championship leader as he tried to get past Pearce. The Ferrari driver getting back at him in towards turn 1, back in front again as they continue to drive away from the rest of the field. Tony van der Linden, who started second, is back to third and continues to fall back. Pearce decides to defend down the inside there in towards turn 3. Didn't especially need to, but Sam Van Ruler was more than happy to apply the pressure by going on the outside line. He'll do it again at turn 5. He'll be very close around Big Ben, but doesn't really want to pull out like this because he'll be taking a longer route without slipstream from the Ferrari. But clearly, he's got decent straight line speed, as demonstrated at Daytona. The Porsche is not so bad anymore at straight line speed, but not good enough for Sam Van Ruler there. He's still behind, and even with the run he's got towards Cunningham, I don't think he'll be going through.
Nah, not quite. But it's a sensational battle. It's nice to see Carl Pearce getting his elbows out, defending a little bit, and Sam Van Ruler obviously equally willing to put some pressure on and go for those moves. Back up to the fight for second place. Lewis Boubier able to clear the rest of the field by about 2.5 seconds ahead of Timothy Vanderbrick. Chris Thacker and Dean Timms round off this little triplet for second, third, and fourth. Is off in the background there, the Eclipse car. Is that Dean Tim? Oh, Simon Dodd off.
Yep, it's Simon Dodd. He's just spun on his own by the looks of things out of Le Mans there. It's pretty easy to do, but not especially when you don't run out wide into the grass, as I don't think he did there. So that's a bit of a weird one, but Eclipse Racing Team, unfortunately, have lost one of their drivers from the top 6. He'll drop down. That's where the little gap is behind the battle here, as there's a big one now between the AM leaders. Pierce versus Van Ruler, and the Porsche really challenging Pierce as he squeezes him into Sunset Bend. Pierce is going to try and run all the way around the outside. That's not going to happen. He'll go for the later apex through here and the better run on the way out. I wonder if this is very similar to what happened first time around, actually, because Carl Pierce did get him back in towards turn 1, but he's not quite strong enough to do it this time, I don't think. He's very close. He'll pull to the inside all over again. Will he commit on the brakes? Not really. Van Ruler does a lot more around the outside, and as long as he keeps it on the road, he should have this. Pierce is very close again, and he needs to be late on the brakes all over again. He very nearly was, but Van Ruler has got to the front.
Brilliant racing between the pair of them. It's brought Tony van der Linden back into the mix as well. 3, maybe even 4-car fight if Sen van Ruler doesn't run away with things. Fantastic battling. Great mutual respect given between the pair of them through some of the trickiest corners on the circuit. What has Carl Pierce got left in the locker in order to maybe launch a counter-attack? Sen van Ruler, though, he's one driver you do not want to give a bit of clear track to in front. He is going to be one that's going to take that with both hands and try and run away with it. Carl Pierce is going to be eager to sit in the slipstream and maybe pounds on any mistake that Sen van Ruler makes. Who knows what could come about of this, but at least for the first half of the lap that Sen van Ruler's been in front, he's not let Carl Pierce let go of him as of yet. You can see the gap still hovering about half a second. How long that's going to stay that way for, though, is another thing entirely.
Absolutely. It's looking back very nicely from the exhaust pipes by the looks of things of the Porsche. I don't know who's got a camera in there. I don't know how they managed it, but anyway, they have done. I've never seen a camera placed quite like that before in racing, but there we are. Looking backwards at Carl Pierce, Tony van der Linden is the BMW, the purple BMW. You can just see in the background closing in as a result, certainly, of that battle previously. But now that Sen van Ruler's got to the front, it's hard to see him looking back from here. We often see this, to be fair, with Van Ruler. As you said, Zach, he doesn't always get pole. He has got quite a few poles this season, but not always, and maybe not as often as you'd expect, certainly compared to his race pace. But generally, when he gets to the front, he is never seen again, and unfortunately, that might be the reality now for those behind him. Absolutely.
I mean, whether it's a conscious choice of qualifying towards the back or whatever, or maybe just he prefers his race pace. I know 100%, preferring race pace to qualifying pace. You're not quite able to extract 100% of the car's optimal times, but you can do it in the race and get the most out of each and every single lap, which I think is what Sen van Ruler favours. He's just so naturally quick and so consistent, and his patience and his racecraft ability just allow him to propel towards the front of whatever grid that he's been faced with in that AM category so far this season. And that gap is growing just a little bit. Carl Pierce now 8 tenths back. Following on, though, this fight for second in the pros, with KDL still keeping Chris Chatterton at bay. You can see the concentration there in the bottom right-hand corner of Chris Chatterton, who's trying his utmost to get his way up ahead of the Twisted Racing Lamborghini and up into second, which, well, is still a long way off the championship lead. Is he at least going to be able to round this off on the second step of the podium? Who knows? But with each lap that goes by, it's a mistake there from Diallo, and Chris Chatterton says thank you very much. Snips his way up the inside and up in a second.
Well, I'm not sure what that gesture is from Chris Chatterton, to be fair. I mean, was that a look of anger, maybe? I don't really know, because all that's happened there is Diallo's made a mistake, and through goes Chatterton. Not really sure what he can be disappointed at. I don't know what he's doing. But there we are. He's up to second now. Looked like just a mistake from DL on the way in there. I didn't see anything that was unusual, but anyway, maybe we missed it. Not entirely sure. Timothy Vanderbroek then just up in front of Chris Thacker in the Pro-Ams. Dean Timms here as well, who of course does have a very outside chance of winning the title here today. And by the way, in terms of laps needed to be completed, I'm going to go with 20 to be absolutely sure to get the 50% and the points that you need throughout the race here today. So 20 laps, and that's when we'll know, particularly in the case of Reynolds and Van Ruler, whether they have won the titles today. But I think it says it all, Zach, that the 3 championship leaders are leading these races right now. They're not there by accident.
They're not. They've been there or thereabouts in each and every single one of the races over the last 2 months of racing, nearly 3 of racing action. It's been absolutely sensational. All 3 of them have been impressive, taken their victories, taken their podiums, even on days where they've not necessarily looked the strongest. They have still delivered what would be seen as a decent result. I mean, Sam Van Ruler has battled his weird issues over the course of the season. Lewis Boubier had a couple of runnings, maybe not been able to carve his way through traffic as efficiently in the reverse grid races, and some of the blinking issues that he suffered in terms of his internet. Stuart Reynolds, he's just been the class of the field in the pros. All three of them have had their stories, they've had their narratives, and they're looking to close it off in the best way possible for season 5.
Absolutely. Just under a quarter of an hour gone here in this final race of the season, and Lewis Boubier is still leading. There he is, just under 3 seconds, and there he actually is on the right hand side there for the first time this season, as far as I can work out. He's got a penguin in the background, but his head's in the way now because he's leaned back to drive. But when we were watching him just beforehand in qualifying, we saw a decorative penguin in the background. He's having a couple of technical problems though here, Zach, and I wonder how much he's going to know about this, because sometimes, especially when you're a driver, you have absolutely no idea, but those around him will know. And I wonder if he does know and whether that is concerning him at the moment, because he is dropping out once or twice.
He is. He's having a couple of blinks. I don't know if the other drivers on track have seen it, but if it is, it does make it a bit more difficult to overtake them. You don't know what you're overtaking. Fortunately for Boubier, that's not really an issue, considering he is 3 seconds up the road. But let's just hope it doesn't completely cut out, and we'll see him at the race. So hopefully it is just more of an inconvenience than anything. I do love how you clarified that it's a decorative penguin in the background of Lewis Boubier, as if it would be any other type of penguin.
A real one. Yeah. Yeah, I'll assure you, he's not got a live penguin in the background. It's just decorative, I presume. I don't know.
You presume?
Well,
he's just stuffed a penguin and whacked it on his wall, has he?
Well, you never know, do you? So we'll ask him. But anyway, he's currently enjoying nearly a 3 seconds worth of a lead, and we're looking back from Timothy Vanderbroek at the moment, who's got Thacker and Timms behind him, and Ivo van der Linden not with them, unfortunately. Van der Linden's the most realistic challenger to any championship lead today, actually, in that he can actually take a championship lead without having DNFs to go his way, as it looks like Chris Chaddison's off the road down at Le Mans, maybe. I think he's been off at those final section of corners before the Ullman Straight and before Sunset Bend as well. Wonder if Harry Wills is going to get anywhere near him here. I don't think so, but well, it's not even a major off, I don't think, because he's just come out right behind DL. But if he wasn't particularly pleased before, then he's definitely going to be even more worked out.
Yeah, I wonder what gesture he threw when this happened. We'll take a look as he's running his way through into Le Mans, using a lot of the track on the left-hand side. You can get away with it. Using too much track on the left-hand side there. That was scary. That was dangerous. And that is going to be a heart-in-the-mouth moment for Chris Chaddison. As soon as that happens, 9 times out of 10, that is a straight bullet towards the barrier. Fortunately, Chaddison did the right thing, lifted off the throttle, got on the brakes as soon as he reached the tarmac, managed to counter steer, managed to hold it, and was able to point the car in the right direction. Cardiel was able to get himself up in a second. In terms of the championship, doesn't really make much of a difference. It just means that Chris Chaddison is still able to compete in this race.
He does, and that's certainly a good thing. Nobody out of this race as of yet, by the way. We've had a couple of incidents and spins, of course, but nobody's even had to take a trip down pit lane in the first 15 minutes of this one, so we're very pleased about that. Very pleased to have everybody still out there on the circuit and still running in this race. There's the second place Pro-Am battle down towards the hairpin, turn 7. Timothy Vanderbroek and Timms. It's Thacker who's a little bit closer, really. And Carl Pearce, who's not letting Sam Van Ruler get away by any means. As we said earlier, or I predicted earlier indeed, I thought Sam Van Ruler was going to run away with this race after that, but clearly Carl Pearce has got the pace to keep up with him inside this first stage of the race.
Absolutely. I mean, again, as I said, Sam Van Ruler might be doing something a bit different with strategy, whether that's going away from the conventional two-stop, being a bit more conservative. That obviously would play into Carl Pearce's hands ever so slightly, but what we usually see, Sam Van Ruler is able to run away with things. So at least at face value, Carl Pearce has got the pace in order to keep up, and he showed that in qualifying by getting the pole position. So maybe he just is able to match Sam Van Ruler, which is obviously a very brilliant achievement, considering Sam Van Ruler has been tipped by many to not need to be in the AMs, be in the Pro-Ams or even the Pros by some. However, speaking of the Pro-Ams, the fight for second is still here. Chris Thacker looking for the inside going into Sunset. He thought about it, went back in, thought about it again, had a bit of a look, trying to deter Timothy Vanderbrick from taking a wide line. Look at how close he got to the barrier there. That just shows different types of lines that you have to take through Sunset, and Chris Thacker opting for the tightest possible.
And we're hearing that he might have even scraped it around there as well. I think it looked very close. It didn't look like he hit it from that angle, but apparently he did. So that's not going to do him any favours either, especially on straight line speed in that BMW, which is so important in terms of overtaking, of course. Vanderbilt goes a bit wide into turn 3. It's forcing him onto a narrower line into 5. And now Thacker's going to be close, but not quite good enough on the exit there, I don't think, to get anywhere near. Dean Timms will be quite close as well by the looks of things. Simon Dodd has been off the road again, I'm afraid, and he's the first driver to come down pit lane inside 20 minutes of this race. That's going to put him at quite a stretch on fuel, actually. If he's doing a two-stop, as most of these guys will, then he'll have to do 2 very long stints from here, maybe even with a bit of fuel saving from now until the end. But I feel as if that pit stop has been forced as a result of damage, and you'd imagine so, because otherwise he's just needlessly making his race more difficult than it has to be.
Yeah, I would imagine that is probably to pit for some damage or something or other. I can't see that being scheduled. We'll obviously wait and see how long he spends stationary, which is 17 seconds, so he's back out. So that doesn't seem like he's had to repair any damage or anything like that. That might just be a scheduled stop. Who knows, actually? I mean, we'll see how many stops he has to take for the rest of the race, which is presumably just one more, run that tank empty, and then put a little bit more in to go to the end. It's just very uncharacteristically early. We usually in these endurance races see people go plus or minus 5 minutes. Is that Lewis Bouvet blinking out of existence, or is that just a live timing going wrong? It's the first time he's actually lost positions because of it. Is that Lewis Bouvet's internet playing some...
I think he's gone. I think Lewis Bouvet's gone. I think he's gone from the session. This is absolutely huge news for Lewis Bouvet, the championship leader, the race leader in the Pro-Am Championship. Big drama here now. Ivo van der Linden with an unprecedented chance to take this away from Lewis Bouvet right at the bitter end of this championship. What drama in the final 75 minutes of the season at Sebring for our season finale in season 5. What a fantastic moment for van der Linden, quite possibly. I'm not sure he'll be celebrating it, but he'll certainly be pleased, because there he is, 4th place at the moment, and Bouvet needs to get back in the session. He is back in again, and we believe he's not dropped out entirely, but he's crashed out there on the circuit, is what we're being told. He's carried on, and so we'll have a look a little bit later. This is going to be Simon Dodd, though, and we'll just clean up his incident first, because that happened a few moments ago. It's in Sunset Bend again, where Thacker scraped the wall. This is going to be a bigger spin for Simon Dodd, and he's going to hit the wall harder. But he was actually just going to end up accidentally in pit lane, but actually he did need to come in. So that's the deal with that one. But we're going to get a view as to what happened to Lewis Bouvet as well soon. At the moment, he's only losing 5 points to van der Linden, so that's absolutely fine. But now the nerves are going to be jangling. Now the race is absolutely on.
Absolutely. It's been a second chance pass to the Dutchman of van der Linden. He now needs to fight his way to the front. This is what happened to Lewis Bouvet then. Was it just his internet disconnected, I'm assuming? So we're just going to see him blink out of existence, or is it going to be an on-track incident potentially through the S's, over the curb, around he goes, completely unforced error. Lewis Bouvet sent off the road and sent tumbling down the Pro-Am field. That is, well, no one to blame but himself, really. Now the race is on. Ivo van der Linden, 3 seconds off the car in front of Dean Timms. He's got to get a wiggle on. He's got to make that 3 seconds up. He's got to make that points deficit.
He absolutely does. And it's a very, very tall order as well for him, I would say, even at this stage. Down towards Sunset Bend he goes at the moment. Still needs to gain quite a few more points. 17 points, the disadvantage at the start of the day, by the way. For van der Linden from Bouvet. He's gaining 5 of those back at the moment, but if he was to be in first from here, then he would be taking the title as things stand. The problem, I think, is going to be that Lewis Bouvet has got the scope to actually come back from this. Sean Breitenbach is right in front of him, and at the moment there's going to be no competition there, I don't think, as Thomas Pugh gets overtaken by Sven Van Ruler for an overall position, which is somewhat unusual. But then again, the pace at the front of the AM field this season has been quite fantastic. The gap between the Pro-Ams and the AMs off of the start is a little bit smaller than it is between the Pros and the Pro-Ams. And so it does mean that Sebring Ruler can gain quite a good overall position by the end. Here's Boubier, though, trying to save his championship. And he's still got serious face on as ever. I mean, his facial expression hasn't really changed from when he was in the lead.
I can guarantee, though, inside he is going to be kicking himself. I think it's slightly more stressed, slightly more panicked from Lewis Boubier, thinking this race is no longer in my control. I have to do something here. Well, to be fair, he could sit in 6th, but he's not going to want to, is he? He's going to want to be as secure as possible. That incident is going to dwell in his mind, thinking, have I just lost the championship because of that? Has that cost me a season's worth of effort purely because of one spin over the curb? That is going to be replaying time and time again in Lewis Boubier's mind. And, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what he can do. Is it going to lead on to more mistakes? Is it going to eat away at him? Or is he going to use it as fuel for motivation to carve his way back to either Van der Linden, back to the lead? Maybe. Who knows? It's a long race. Still 51 minutes left to go of it. So let's see what happens with Lewis Boubier in terms of the strategy, the pit strategy, what can go on in that regard. But first up on the list, John Breitenbach. That's the first stepping stone. That's the first hurdle to overcome before you can really start your road to recovery.
Yeah, you just got to steady the ship first of all, and then you can begin to sail on. Let's see, into the sunset bend they'll go. John Breitenbach just up in front. Bit of a tighter line from Boubier on the exit. Is he going to pit early to get out of this maybe? Breitenbach surely grabbed the wall there. You can't quite see from that camera angle because the catch fencing's in the way, but I'm sure he caught the wall there, and he's going to be under pressure in towards turn 1. Lewis Boubier back down the inside in towards turn 1, back inside the top 5 again. The two championship rivals together, and that was a mistake that Lewis Boubier just couldn't ignore.
Absolutely not. When you get easy pickings like that, you've got to take it. You've got to grab a couple, and that's what Lewis Boubier has done exactly that in grabbing John Breitenbach, maybe getting himself a sandwich along the way as well from the car of Breitenbach. Moving his way forward though, and up into 5th place, which is now 1 place behind Ivo van der Linden. Can he climb his way up even higher? That again would be an ideal situation, and well, Lewis Boubier's got the pace. Has he been able to regain his mental composure, which I think he has. I think he is good. He's, as you say, steadied the ship and now is ready to continue sailing on. So I think we're all good in that regard. Johan Reigns has closed the curtain from where we saw him pre-broadcast. He's back into the darkness. He's with his lightsaber in the background, and he's running in 4th place in the AMS.
You won't have seen this on the broadcast because we were just chatting about this beforehand, but I always say every week that he hates daylight. Clearly, he was taking a bit of a liking to it earlier on, but clearly just doesn't like letting us have any daylight. To be fair to him, especially in a race as long as this, and this is a problem I always found actually, Zach, with racing when I did used to race quite a long time ago. Especially at this kind of time of year, maybe not this kind of time of year because we are quite late spring now, heading towards summer, where unless you are doing a really late driving like this, then you'll always have the same conditions. But especially towards springtime and autumn time, where the sun sets very, very quickly, sometimes you can almost surprise yourself and find yourself, without any lights on, but also in complete darkness outside because you've not closed the curtains, you've not turned any lights on, and you're just getting blinded by your own monitor screen. I found myself in that position many a time, but Johan Reigns clearly not going to be finding himself in those kind of problems. He's shut his blinds now, and he's absolutely ready to go. Top 3 still absolutely together. I'm glad to say that although Boubier hasn't given us any more interest in the championship fight, I don't think he has certainly given us a good race for the overall win fight here.
Absolutely. Chris Thacker pushing the limits going into that right-hander. Sam van Ruler, early pit stop then from the Flying Dutchman, the championship leader, quite easily could be the championship winner of the AM category in just shy of half an hour through this race. Will it be his first and only stop? Will it be one of 2 from the number 15 machine? He's up onto the jacks, changing at the tyres, then he'll go again, of course. Interesting fight for the Pro-Ams, of course, but already the strategy kicking off in the AMS.
Early from Sam van Ruler, but there we are. It's only, less than half an hour in here, and that is a somewhat surprise to see, but Cole Pearce is not going to be complaining. He'll take the lead for now at least, and Sam van Ruler will be on his way back down in last position down in the AMS. Chris Thacker getting very close to Van der Broek once again as Boubier gets close to Van der Linden as well. It's clear to see that Boubier has the pace over probably everybody here. I do wonder, with still nearly 50 minutes remaining, still 3/4 of an hour left, he might have time to still go and win this race just yet.
I wouldn't be overly surprised if we did see it happen. I mean, bar any more mistakes, it is a very high likelihood. Still having a couple of blinking issues, though, as you can see, flashing behind Ivo van der Linden into Sunset Bend, of course, and he is looking to try and get himself back ahead. Ivo van der Linden obviously isn't going to like that very much. He's going to be hoping the top three continue to fight and he can close that 4-second gap before Lewis Boubier closes that quarter of a second gap and gets in front. Fingers crossed for Ivo van der Linden's sake that he can get onto the back of that 3-car train for the lead, but that is slightly less likely than Lewis Boubier finding his way through. But absolutely, if he can dispatch van der Linden without much of a fight and nail the strategy and make no mistakes from here on in, absolutely 4 seconds, and with the top three fighting potentially as hard as they could be for that lead, absolutely. As Johan Reigns, unfortunately, light or dark, it's not really made much of a difference. He's had a spin going into the Almond Straight.
Well, he'll be feeling like he's driving through the darkness at the moment because this is not good news. I'm pretty sure he's got suspension damage as a result of that, just the way that car was behaving down the Almond Straight there. I think he'll be on his way in, as Lewis Boubier is still having a couple of problems here. He's now applying the pressure to Ivo van der Linden, which is good news, but the bad news is he's still having problems. Johan Reigns is in, so is Conor Kinnaird as well, and so within half an hour, this is more like expected pit stop times, but it's not great either for Reigns, who will surely have to repair a bit of damage here. Sam Van Ruler will overtake them both, but it's going to be a two-stop race here today, there's no doubt about that. Nobody stretching it to one. You'd need to ideally make it to 37.5 minutes remaining. 37.5 minutes. Well, I guess it's the same both ways around, isn't it? Because that's the halfway distance. Yeah, just under 8 minutes. So 4 more laps needed. And given some people are already struggling for fuel, I can't see anyone doing 4 more laps.
Nah, neither. That's both of us that's made a mistake in terms of halfway distances today. Obviously, only one of us did it on a broadcast, so that's fine. But Sam Van Ruler, yeah, coming a bit early, I think, taking the 2-stop and committing to it. Again, Sebring is just one of those circuits that really, you're braking a lot, you're accelerating a lot. It's quite stop-starty. There's, quite a lot where you're using more fuel. The car isn't running in such an efficient window in terms of its combustion, so yeah, you are burning quite a bit of fuel. Not many opportunities to lift and coast and save of fuel either. So I think that is going to be the general consensus to go for the 2-stop. Lewis Boubier, one hand on the wheel in probably one of the most intense races of his life. So, well, he's brave.
Yeah. Francois Peugeot into the pit lane, Hakan Lindmo as well. So it's very much the time to be making a stop now. There's Lewis Boubier then just on the back of Ivo van der Linden, still waiting for pit stops from this top 5 in Pro-Am. Peugeot is the first one to come in, other than Simon Dodd, of course, who had to make a stop early on at 53 seconds. That's about half minute longer than what you'd normally expect to see. Sam Van Ruler's pit stop was a bit early, but it was on time as well in terms of its actual length. It was absolutely fine, so expect to see Carl Pearce drop behind him as he comes into the pit lane now. Tony van der Linden is also into the pit lane there, so the AMs are very much making the early stops here. I'm not really sure if there's really a reason for that, Zach, other than just pure coincidence, really. But the AMs have seemingly pitted around the half-hour mark, earlier sometimes as well, whereas the pros are willing to run out pretty much as far as they can go.
Whether that's just choice or maybe the pros with obviously the higher category, maybe higher experience, are better at saving fuel, being able to go the distance compared to the AMs. Maybe that is a difference between the classes, who knows. Carl Pearce though now leaving the pit lane. Sam Van Ruler is going to get the jump. It was going to be quite close. Build up the speed though for the Ferrari is not going to be enough to see him stay as close as he was pre-pit stop. So Sam Van Ruler back into what is the net race lead with Carl Pearce in the chase. The pros, however, able to go a couple laps later than the AMs. The top 3 all now in. Reynolds, DL and Chatterton all unanimously choosing to come in on lap 16.
Yep, that's very much seems like the limit then. 16 laps and just around 32 minutes with the best lap time currently in the 159s. The 158s. I believe from Stuart Reynolds with a 158.2 with the best lap time at the moment. So we're just under 2 minutes to lap. Everybody's in very, very busy indeed. And now pit stop times are going to be the ones to watch. Stuart Reynolds has had a little bit of a longer one there. That was 26 seconds from him. But it was for Cardiel as well. So they're going to cancel each other out a little bit. Chris Chatterton has done 25 seconds in the lane there in the box. And so he'll gain a little bit, but will still be quite far behind DL in the end. Harry Wills also pulls to a stop in his box. He'll be stopping for well over 26 seconds. It's 27 for him, I'm afraid. It's a little bit longer, and a short one from Chris Thacker, who's got out in the lead in Pro-Am. This is very interesting now. 21.8 seconds in the lane. Then there's Vanderbroek, Timms, Boubier's jumped Van der Linden. There's a lot of changes going on in the Pro-Am field.
Absolutely. It's been, well, a very intense bit of racing. However, is that genuinely 4.5 seconds? Wow, that is huge from Chris Thacker. Did he take a short fuel stop and then is he going to try and save fuel in the second stint? Maybe 4.5 seconds seems mental of a gap for me, I have to say, unless he's just sat there and lifted and coasted and saved 4.5 seconds worth of fuel. But even that is bizarre. That sort of put an end to the top 3 fight that we saw in the first stint. Fair play to Chris Thacker, but my best guess is that he's going to be struggling towards the end of this race.
Well, if you think about it this way, they've just done 16 laps, and that's around 32 minutes of this race. And if you times that by 3, that's an hour 36, which is well over our distance here today. You've got 20 minutes to play with in there, let's say, 15, 20 minutes to play with. That means one of your stints is going to be shorter, one of your fill-ups is going to be a bit shorter as well. And instead of using it right at the end like everyone else is doing, Chris Tacker's decided, I'm going to take this in the middle of the race, especially since I've been stuck in traffic for this early portion when we had that battle for the lead in Pro-Am, especially. You know, get myself out of that entirely and take my short stop now and then a bit of a longer one later. So he won't be able to do another 16 seconds here. Another 16 laps. He'll be in a little bit earlier and he'll have to do a longer stop. But it's just a case of whether he's going to come out ahead of the rest or not, really. It's absolutely fantastic to see someone doing something a little bit different on strategy, because for the rest of them, it is very similar.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always good to have that variety, even, you know, sort of a track as dull as Sebring sometimes. So it's nice to see it be spiced up a little bit. And the only way really to have done that is in the pit lane. So we'll wait and see as to how that develops, see which one was the better choice. Was it the one where everyone felt was safe, or is it going to be sort of trying something just that little bit different? On-track battles, though, Jarmo Sastermoinen versus Tony Van der Linden. This is for P3 in the AM category. 11.5 seconds up to Carl Pearce, 7.5 seconds back to Johan Reigns. They're sort of isolated in their own little pocket, these two, with Sastermoinen and Van der Linden fighting over the podium or not. Actually, as the Audi goes for a bit of a spin, Tony Van der Linden says thank you very much and up in the third.
Well, that's going to be the easiest overtake he'll make all day, and that was close with Johan Reigns, who just goes through there. Conor Kinnaird gets through too. Oh, well, a little bit. He'll go wide, though, through Le Mans, and through again goes Sastermoinen back to 5th place, but that was the classic Sebring mistake, really, at that final little complex before the very last corner. It's very tricky, especially over those curbs, actually, through that little free corner section there, and unfortunately for Sastermoinen, he has dropped down the order as a result. We didn't quite see it, Zach, but I'd imagine he just grabbed the wall there, and the damage on the Audi certainly seemed to suggest that he had been in the wall as well.
Yeah, that is a bit of a shame. Easy mistake to make, though, unfortunately. Particularly, I think, in a car as sort of perky as the Audi. I was sort of told, I haven't driven it myself, but I've been told that it is a little bit front-end heavy, quite easy to get the rear a little bit shaky, and particularly through that sequence of corners, quite easy to get the rear destabilised. So it is a shame, but it happens at a track like Sebring, where the bumps and things can, you know, sort of mess with the aero, and the stability is off the road. There goes Lewis Boubier. Another mistake at a similar portion of the circuit. Ivo van der Linden picks his way back through. Lewis Boubier is really struggling to get back into a rhythm.
He is, and I'm not really sure what that's down to there, but just seem to be struggling ever so slightly on the exit of this pit stop phase, or whether we can say he's actually struggling or whether he's just had a mistake there. I don't know. Let's have a look at a replay from a little bit earlier on with Jarmo Sastermoinen. It's going to be the classic mistake of, to be fair, not even got on the curbs there. It's just one of those things. Maybe contributed with the fact that he is driving the Audi, which can be a little bit twitchy and a little bit uncontrollable on occasion. Didn't even take the curbs to unsettle it on that occasion. He's found the wall and probably lost a bit of lap time as a result on there as well.
100%, yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's easily done. In a race like this, we knew it was going to be an endurance race. Obviously, that's why it's called an endurance race. But in terms of the you know, the mentality, how easy it is for things to go wrong, the attrition rates, etc., etc. What we have got is the top two in the Pro-Ams fighting for position. Ivo van der Linden being able to find his way back ahead of Lewis Boubier, albeit not enough points to see him overtake Boubier in the championship standings, but it's a nice novelty to have the top two having a bit of an on-track fight with still half the race left to go.
Yeah, it is fantastic. At the moment, van der Linden is gaining points on his championship rival, but it's only 3 of them, I'm afraid, at this moment. And that is nowhere near enough to topple the 17 points advantage that Boubier came into today with. It actually doesn't matter where van der Linden finishes at the moment, because Boubier is inside the top 5 and he has now completed more than half of the race, so that is out of the window. And at the moment, I think we can pretty much crown, with the completion of another lap, Stuart Reynolds and Sven van Rooyen leaders of their categories, but also champions of this series as well, because even with a crash at this stage, they'd complete 50% and they would have enough points to get the title, no matter if they finished last or not in this championship race. Reynolds and van Rooyen will have known they had to do that at the start of today, and it's not too difficult for them. And on this occasion, the two championship leaders have crowned themselves with still more than half an hour of the season remaining.
Absolutely. So big congratulations to Reynolds and Van Rooyen. Side by side, Lewis Boubier trying to nip his way up the inside of Ivo van der Linden. Now a drag race up the pitch straight in towards turn number 1. The inside goes the way of the Dutchman of van der Linden, who pulls his way back onto the racing line. So no movement as of yet from Lewis Boubier, unless there's any changes going into 2 or 3. However, he's getting quite close to the rear end of that fellow BMW in towards the next braking zone of turn 3. Van der Linden goes semi-defensive as Lewis Boubier disappears out of existence and then comes back in, giving us all a bit of a fright, but back into it, and the fight for fourth continues on. But yeah, Reynolds, Van Rooyen, near on perfect seasons in terms of a driving standpoint, and well, now they can breathe and enjoy the final half an hour of the season.
They can. But job's not done for Lewis Boubier yet. This is the only one now left remaining in doubt. Boubier needing a top 5 to guarantee himself the title, no matter where van der Linden finishes, and at the moment they're having a fantastic battle. Let's have a look at a replay of Chris Chatterton, who's dropped from 3rd to 4th in the pro standings recently. He has just pulled off to the side of the road and let Harry Wills through by the looks of things here. I don't know what on earth was going on about there, Zach, because he didn't seem to... Normally he'd suggest slow down there, but he didn't even go anywhere near the curb, so I don't really know.
Yeah, that's bizarre to me, I'll be honest. I'm not sure. He's not coming back into the pit lane, so he hasn't run out of fuel or anything like that. So I am perplexed. I don't know. Maybe he wants someone to chase in the form of Harry Wills. Maybe he's trying to give Twisted a 1-2-3 to round off the seat. I don't know what's going through Chris Chatterton's mind. But yeah, I don't know. A weird one. It can't have been a slowdown, unless he extended too much at Le Mans, but no way, surely. There's not to get a slowdown, surely. I mean, yeah, I don't know. There probably was a slowdown somewhere. You do get 40 odd seconds to serve it, but I don't know. Yeah, Chris Chatterton down to 4th. Unfortunately, his championship is over, and maybe he's just given up with this race. I don't know.
Very, very bizarre. Side by side between Boubier and van der Linden then. The rivals go neck and neck over the line. Boubier once again having those slight problems, which is going to be really unnerving for the man on the inside, Ivo van der Linden. It's Boubier right round the outside, championship leader, and he'll remain there through the first turn. It'll be outside again for turn 3. He'll get the inside for 4, but outside for 5 again. Van der Linden ran a bit deep into turn 3 actually, but I don't think you can really blame him for making a bit of contact with Boubier there when he doesn't really know where his championship rival is there at all. He remains in 4th, but that's got to be a really difficult battle to actually be a part of when you're Ivo van der Linden there.
Absolutely. Again, how hard do you fight it? How much does it mean really to fight it? Because it's not going to make much of a difference in terms of the championship. And also, does he want to give the place to Lewis Boubier? Obviously, you can't really see what he's fighting sometimes, but Lewis Boubier is still putting some pressure on, as Hicken Limo, I think, is out of this race, as he was shown on the lifetime screen. Lewis Boubier flashes in and out of existence side by side with Ivo van der Linden going through into the next right-hander, then the left. The advantage swings back to the Dutchman. Lewis Boubier has got the nose ahead, however, as they run their way through these sweepers in towards now Tower Bend at the next right-hander, and Lewis Boubier is up and ahead into 4th place. So the championship once again firmly in Lewis Boubier's hands.
It is, as if it wasn't already. He's just taken an even firmer grip of that lead that he has at the moment. Here's Sam Van Ruler right on the back of, I think this is Marcel Breitenbach maybe. Or it could be Jean Breitenbach. Let's have a look. It is Marcel Breitenbach. This is for 13th overall in the standings. Marcel is currently down in 8th, I think, in the, 9th in the Pro-Am standings. But Sam Van Ruler giving him a bit of grief at the moment. And this is a bit of a problem for our Am race leader, because last lap he lost half a second to Carl Pearce. And even though they're not battling for a class position here, this could get awkward because Van Ruler seems to be losing time. I think Carl Pearce is slightly quicker than Breitenbach, so if Van Ruler stays behind here for too long, he could be caught for the lead.
Potentially so. We're going to take a look back. This is Kai DL running second place and is now 21 seconds off his teammate. Through turn 1, the car is leaning quite a bit, turn out of the corner, and then destabilise the car backwards into the barrier. That is strange, as the rear bumper then decides it wants to disconnect from the hinges. But yeah, weird. Yeah, I think he just turned in a bit too early, had to then turn out of the corner again, and then in doing so destabilized the car way too much. And well, that is him having a spin and still in second place. Doesn't really make much of a difference. It just increases the margin that Stuart Reynolds has got to breathe.
It does. And that's margin now well over 20 seconds. Harry Wills actually not really close enough to take advantage either. Oh no, and he's got off. Oh, smacks the wall as well at Collier. That's terrible for Harry Wills, I'm afraid, at turn 11. He'll be in the pit lane. Kai DL's gone back to pit lane as well. He's towed back because he's had problems. All of a sudden, Chris Chatterton's going to be up to second here, but what a disaster that is for Harry Wills.
Huge disaster, unfortunately, as for whatever reason, yeah, Kai DL counting his losses and not wanting to partake in the final half hour of this season. We're going to take a look as to what happened exactly. Maybe there's another incident. That's where Harry Wills went off, so still looking good. Unless he just has another spin and disconnects. Pulling under braking really heavily, that car. He broke and then the car just leaned to the left-hand side. And I think Cardiel just wasn't having it. Back to pit lane, and Chatterton now ahead of Harry Wills and through. And Harry Wills going slow enough even to let some of the Pro-Am drivers through as well. So, well, bad couple of laps for both Wills and Dial.
For the second round in a row, we're going to have a Pro-Am on the podium, I think, because Harry Wills is going to have to come into pit lane here for some damage repairs. We're already got Thacker into second, actually. He's ahead of Chatterton in the overall order with half an hour to go here. So this is really the utmost of bizarrest races. I mean, you've got to say that they're, to be fair, with DL in towards Tower, it wasn't an isolated incident, that one, in that the spin did certainly happen on his own, like that much was obvious, but it was certainly contributed to by the fact that he rear-ended the wall at turn 1 there, and I don't think it would have happened otherwise.
No, probably not. As Thomas Pugh back into the pit lane for his final stop, surely. He's done a bit of a short middle stint, and then he'll fuel up for half an hour and then go again. Yeah, okay, he's kickstarting the second round of pit stops a little bit earlier than I once expected. Up onto the jacks and away he'll then go. Dean Timms, this is for third. He's got 1.9 seconds back to Lewis Bube. Is that Harry Wills just in front of him? Indeed it is. So a bit of slower traffic to negotiate even for the Pro-Ams as he puts his way to the inside. So no major time loss there for Dean Timms relative to Lewis Bube. But always something you've got to take account of is slower cars on track and how you manage them in terms of managing the gap to the cars around you. And we're getting told there's a bit of rallycross going on from some of the drivers.
This was just behind Chris Chatterton as we were talking about him there. Timothy Vanderbroek pushing quite hard, and he might have got a slowdown for this because he's gone straight across turn 2, and then it's not helped him actually in towards turn 3. That was all a little bit nerve-wracking. He's gotten away with it, but my goodness, that was a close one. There's Dean Timms just behind him in the blue Prestanda Nomad BMW. Then there's Boubier, then there's Van der Linde, with Harry Wills really struggling now, dropping way down. I mean, in the final half an hour here, Zach, he can make it to the end. I don't know why he doesn't just come in and cut his losses right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest. It maybe just sheer willpower to carry on going unless we see him pull into the pit lane. I did not mean that to be a play on his name of Harry Wills, by the way. It does actually work. But he's into the pit lane now anyway to probably repair his damage and maybe be back on his way or just park it because the points have been scored. I'm sure he'd want to take the checkered flag for the final race of the season as he'll be tumbling down the overall field. But, well, yeah, it's been a tough race for all, I think, even the pros.
It has. Well, I think especially the pros, actually. They've had a terrible time, some of them. Stuart Reynolds has had a fantastic race so far, though, leading now by nearly 40 seconds in his class, 35 overall, and now coming into a bit of lap traffic, but he won't care. He knows he's champion of this series as well, and he'll be just soaking up and savouring this moment now at the front of this race, with less than half an hour remaining in the season. I think the main interest, as has come quite often in this championship, is going to be from Pro-Am here. Chris Thacker has got quite the lead over Timothy Vanderbroek, who might have made a mistake on this lap. But anyway, the gap's growing. Over 7 seconds now between Thacker and Vanderbroek, although Thacker did gain 6 seconds in that last pit stop. If we reverse that and suppose that Vanderbroek's going to gain 6 seconds this time round, we could have a very, very close fight for the win at the end.
Maybe so. Fingers crossed that we've got one. I think it would be a great way to round off the season and having that fight for the win. So let's wait and see. Of course, into the second half of the race, time not exactly on everyone's side, but with that final pit stop along the way, maybe we could see a bit of diversity. Maybe we could see that variation spark a little bit of a kindling in terms of the lead fight, which we definitely do not have in the pros, because Stuart Reynolds is running away with things, has won the championship and is going to absolutely run away with this race as well from pole position. But well, at least in the Pro-Ams, let's have a look as to what can happen. I think in the Ams as well, that's fairly settled in terms of Sam van Ruler nailing the run ever since he got past Carl Pearce. I think his mission is try and finish as high overall as possible, which I think is probably going to be capped at P10 where he is now, because he's got just shy of 19 seconds to Francois Berger for P9. But Sam van Ruler, Carl Pearce probably going to be settled, so I guess we'll have to wait and see what can happen in the Pro-Ams, which we always thought were going to be the most interesting of the three today. Closest championship fight and the most cars on the grid. Yep,
and it's certainly delivered for us so far. In terms of maximum distance here for these pit stops, I think 7 laps at the line Stuart Reynolds might be able to manage, which will give him only about 10 minutes remaining in the race. Quite a short final stint potentially, but let's not forget that with that shorter pit stop, Thacker probably does need to come in a little bit earlier than that, and we're just playing a waiting game until then for this to happen. But spending a bit of time on board here with Stuart Reynolds now, who's really at the front and really into his stride. And I've got to say, Zach, there's not many better feelings than this in sim racing especially. Well, it's probably the same in real life, although I've never done it. Out front, leading, you know that you've got the championship as well. I always found that in the few times I was leading, Zach, you kind of reach this new state where you realise that you don't need to push any harder than you are doing right now, because you are out front and you're not being caught certainly as well. You can just keep it where you're at currently, keep it at a pace you're comfortable with, and bring it home from there. And I found as well that you often make quite few mistakes in that position, because you know you've got that advantage over the rest. And for all of those things to be stacking in Reynolds' favour right now, he must feel as if he can do no wrong in this race at the moment, which it might even be correct.
Yeah, potentially so. I mean, in that lead position, obviously you do slip into more of a complacent mindset. For Stuart Reynolds, everything's done. He's 40 seconds ahead. He's chilling. He's got the championship, blah, 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 blah. Lewis Boubier now pinning his way into the pit lane, though, in the first of the bunch for the Pro-Ams to start that second phase of the second pit stops. But for Stuart Reynolds, yeah, absolutely. I think it could just be slipping into a bit of complacency, that we could see some mistakes, or he's just raising to that new high, trying to see how much he can win it by, which, again, is another thing that we quite often see with drivers just being like, well, it's all wrapped up now. Let's just see how good I can get with the final stage of this race. So Stuart Reynolds, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how big the gap is back to Chris Chatterton in around about 23 minutes time. Sam van Ruler leading the way in the AMS. Is he coming in for a second stop soon? No, he is not. So Lewis Boubier and Thomas Pugh, of course, I should say. Actually, he coming in a couple laps ago for the Pro-Ams also. Lewis Boubier starting the second stops, and then he'll be on his way again, see how high he can finish. Is it going to be for the race win, though? I don't see that happening. There he is pulling out and already onto the grass from Lewis Boubier. And
Marcel Breitenbach's going to be down in his inside, actually, for position there. That's 8th place, 9th place, I think. 8th place. Right, 7th. There we are. Marcel Breitenbach just up in front there with Boubier having to tuck in behind. It's one of those awkward pit exits, actually, that Boubier really fell afoul of. I think he was really minding out for the AM leader there, Sam van Ruler, and in doing so, put himself on the grass, almost sacrificing himself for the AM leader, which is very admirable of him, but it has cost him a place.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving forward and trying to round off the season in the best fashion as possible, trying to shrug off that a little bit. Potentially, Lewis Boubier next on his list. Marcel Breitenbach for P7. Obviously, Breitenbach still to owe us a pit stop, so Lewis Boubier might be able to take his time with this just a little bit. 52, counting up to 53 minutes gone in this race out of an hour and 15. So not long left to go in terms of this season. It's been a fantastic season as well, it must be said. I think that we've been treated to so many highs, a couple of lows, obviously, in some regards, in incidents and things like that, but mostly highs. It's been an awesome season, and, well, 3 worthy champions potentially to see us off. But Lewis Boubier still pressing on, still committed as ever to round off the season in spectacular fashion, and he's got the world's best cheerleader in the form of his decorative penguin in the background.
Yeah, although we can't see it because he's in the way at the moment. He's down the inside, though, in towards Sunset Bend and through into 7th place now. He'll need those, of course, to pit in front of him for those overtakes to happen, but we'll see where he can get to. Only 13 seconds in the box from him on that occasion as well, which is encouraging news for him. I'm expecting everybody's pit stop here at the end to be slightly shorter because there's a bit more of an idea as to where we are on field now, as to apart from or in contrast to where we were last time, where they were still within 3/4 of an hour to go, and everybody was sort of guessing where they were on fuel. Chris Thacker was the only one to really take a risk, but 13 seconds in the box from Boubier. Some of these guys are going to be coming in with about 10 minutes remaining. It's going to be a very short stop from them, and I think it's important for Boubier to get into this clean air now and go as quickly as possible. I think the race win might be a bit of a stretch too far at the moment, but he will more than be happy with consoling himself with that championship, which at the moment he would be getting.
Absolutely. Championship is a championship. You know, a race win to round it off is the best way you can round it off. But Lewis Boubier's season does all the talking for him. He doesn't need the final round to go well. As long as he's won the championship, he gets his prizes at the end of the day, and he can have the pride knowing that he's won the Pro-Am Season 5 championship. So I guess we'll wish him the best of luck in moving forward, and maybe see more of that in Season 6. Whether he's going to stay in the Pro-Ams, get the promotion to Pro, depending on, obviously, his pace throughout media day, etc, see where the admins decide to put him if he's back for Season 6, looking to defend his championship. Carl Pearce giving us a bit of a wave and a thumbs up as well, as we've seen him time and time again over the course of the season. I think he's been here for every round. I can't remember if he was there for the media day plus the Nürburgring, but I think he was. At least he was one of the founding members of the good old webcams in the bottom right. And he's,
don't ask me to
yeah.
don't ask me to remember these round one cameras. Because I haven't got a clue, to be quite honest with you. It's been fantastic to see him up and down the season, though, and see the emotions that he's been providing for us as well. He's been pretty outward in his feelings, for better or worse, in this, or positive or negative, I should say, for whatever they are. But just under 4 seconds behind Sem van Ruler at the moment in the AM category of this race. Just under 20 minutes remaining at Sebring in the final round of the IMB World Series League's GT3 Championship. Chasing down Sem van Ruler, here, who has won the AM title. There he is, and at the moment you can't really see Van Ruler being caught, although it is encouraging for future seasons, and I hope these two both do come back again to this series. It's encouraging for future seasons that Carl Pearce is getting a bit closer to Van Ruler, because there have been times this season where our championship winner has destroyed the field entirely.
Absolutely. I mean, Sam van Ruler has done, such a good job this season. He's been, class of the field, etc. But I think Carl Pearce has really taken the steps up in recent rounds. Maybe that's the motivation of, hang on, I've got a small, slim chance at the championship here. Let's, get my backside in gear. But maybe we could have just seen that linear improvement. And I think Carl Pearce versus Sam van Ruler over the course of a whole season, I think that is going to be one that will be interesting to watch. So hopefully they're both in the same category if they both decide to return for next season and can both give us some awesome racing as they have done. Because even here at Sebring, while the championship was a bit of a miss for Carl Pearce, he still gave the respect, still gave the battle to Sem van Ruler. They had a good little tussle towards the first half of this race, and I'd love to see more of it. I'd love to see it come back. And in terms of championship fights, recent seasons, think back to Alex Urenga in the pros a couple of seasons ago, how he just completely dominated that one. Dean Timms in the AMs as well when when he was able to win that as well. I think it would be nice to see some shake-ups and just that head-to-head all throughout the season. I think Sam van Ruler and Carl Pierce would be two very good candidates to deliver that, because Sam van Ruler, obviously, as quick as he is, Carl Pierce slowly but surely is raising to his level as into the pit lane comes the race leader.
Yeah, that, by the way, those seasons you're talking about there was back when we had just Pro and just Am. We didn't have a Pro Am back in those days, hence why Dean Timms was put in an Am category, which probably wouldn't be the case if we went back to that 2-class format these days. He's a little bit quicker than that now, so well, as you can see, it's still challenging for the race win. Just over a quarter of an hour to go here. Sam van Ruler is in, and that's the limit he can do on fuel here. Chris Thacker's got to be close to his limit now, coming towards the end of lap 29. Stuart Reynolds is into the pit lane already as well, having done the fastest lap of the race so far on the lap preceding this one. He's clearly feeling very good in that car right now. Just 15 minutes of fuel to put in. He'll be back out there again and on his way with quite a comfortable lead, you would hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think he's really too fussed about the strategy. He's got the gap. He's outdrove the strategy essentially, and unless he, disconnects from this race, this is his race to win. He's already won the championship, but he obviously wants to win the race as well. Let's see how long he spends stationary. 16 seconds, 17 seconds. It's a long time to be spent stationary, unless he's repairing a little bit of a dink or so on the car. He's got the gap to do it. Now he's out 22.1 seconds, which for a final stop seems quite long. Not even Lewis Boubier's stop was that long, and he come in, 5, 6, 7 minutes ago.
Maybe he's just been safe. Oh, that's close on the exit of the first corner, and there's Chris Chatterton out in the front. Of course, Chatterton does have one stop remaining, and these guys aren't even fighting for the overall lead at the moment. That still goes to Chris Thacker, but yeah, I think it's more of a safety aspect there for Reynolds, really. I mean, is there any point in him cutting it absolutely fine in terms of fuel here and risk running out when there's a race win on the line here? He's got more than half a minute's worth of a lead when this all shakes out, and so the extra couple of seconds in the box just to make sure won't mean anything to him at all. Chatterton in front then, but it's going to be pretty briefly here. I think at the very maximum, Chatterton can do only 2 more laps after this one, which will be his second 16-lap stint of the race, and yeah, it's probably not even going to be that long. So we'll enjoy this battle while we can, but it certainly won't last very long.
Yeah, well, let's make the most of it while we can. If there is going to be much of a fight, of course, if Chris Chatterton is coming into the pit lane soon, or if Stuart Reynolds is just going to sit back and wait for him to come into the pit lane soon, who knows? It would be nice to have them have one final tussle to round off the season. 2 fantastic drivers that have given us plenty of fantastic moments. So Stuart Reynolds, a bit of a twitch there, going through into the S's now through Le Mans. So a bit of a twitch, and well, as long as Chris Chatterton is coming in soon, I don't think we are going to see much of an overtake. So Stuart Reynolds, yeah, well, I think that's the only mistake that we've seen from him all day. Yeah,
it probably is, unless we've just not been looking at them, because we haven't been seeing him that much, because there's not been that much going on around him. Down towards Sunset Bend he will go, and over the line again, and possibly back in the race lead at the time. No, Chatterton will continue on as Chris Thacker comes in now for the Pro-Ams. I think the others are going to stay out there a little bit longer, and our real big reveal at the end of this race is still a couple of laps away. But to be fair, Thacker's done well to go that long. His pit stop was 6 seconds shorter, and to be only 2 laps short of his previous stint, despite that difference in pit stop time, that's fairly impressive really from the race leader.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, good stuff there. So we'll wait and see. He's now back onto the road. 14.3 seconds was the time spent stationary for Chris Thacker as he runs his way down. Well clear of Lewis Boubier. A sensational stop, which he didn't really need to have a long one, but considering the shortness of his initial one, that is mightily impressive with how much fuel he's been able to save.
Well, I can't really believe he's gone that far, first of all, and then to continue that short pit stop time as well. Very, very impressive. So Chris Thacker is looking more and more like a race winner now in this championship. Might well finally be able to take a win. I'm trying to find out where he finished in the other endurance rounds this season. He DNF'd at the Nordside, for example. Did all right at the most recent endurance round, which we did at Bathurst, I believe it was, but never even inside the top 3 in an endurance. he's got the chance to be on the top step of the podium here. 20 van der Linden and your own reigns are down in pit lane for the AMs, and so Sven van Ruler will overtake them, and he's only got Carl Pierce to overtake now. It will be somewhat of a miracle for the Ferrari driver to manage this, although he will have a couple of laps less fuel to put in. I don't think it's quite going to be enough.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, Sven van Ruler seems to have had this race under wraps. He's had the pace, and based off the last pit stop, Carl Pierce did lose a bit of time. He was able to keep Sem honest in terms of pace, and has done. I mean, their fast laps are virtually matched. In fact, Carl Pierce actually has got a slightly quicker fastest lap, a 59.67 compared to a 59.69 for Sven van Ruler. So Carl Pierce has had the pace. Just depends on how quick that final pit stop is and how quickly he can get back out. Stuart Reynolds still following on Chris Chatterton, able to half the gap to when we last checked in, as Dean Timms is into the pit lane as well. What can he do relative to Chris Thacker? Does seem that Thacker is on course to win that Pro-Am race as well.
He is at the moment. Anyway, bit on the dirt there for Stuart Reynolds, and he'll retake the overall lead and the pro lead ahead of Chris Chatterton. Team Timms then, 10 seconds in the box only, but Chris Thacker more than up to the challenge in terms of going through. And Timothy Vanderbroek was only a couple of seconds in front of Dean Timms, who comes out a good 6 seconds away from Chris Thacker at the moment. I think Thacker's got a fantastic chance of winning this race now. Timms should be able to hang on to third, as Lewis Boubier is back there by a few seconds as well. Interesting to see where Ivo van der Linden also fits into this one, because we're still waiting for the top three in Pro-Am to come in, even with only 11 minutes to go. Surely it will be this time by.
Absolutely. I mean, they have run their fuel tanks quite long. Carl Pierce as well into the pit lane. How long has he spent stationary? Marcel Breitenbach is in also. Carl Pierce, though, 14.1 relative to a 19.4 of Sven van Ruler on their last time in. This could be very, very close. There's Carl Pierce leaving the pit lane. He's not got long to go. There's the limit line. Sven van Ruler building up pace, of course. I think Carl Pierce might have a chance at the race victory here.
He's going to be side by side with Sven van Ruler now. The Porsche will be able to take the inside line at turn one and the faster route through, but Carl Pierce has jumped him. The fuel strategy of the Ferrari driver has not been enough here, and Carl Pierce is on merit ahead of Sven van Ruler, and we haven't been able to see that very often about anybody in front of van Ruler, who's been completely dominant in the AM Championship this season. Not even a smirk on the face of Carl Pierce at the moment, just a picture of full concentration, and it'll absolutely have to be, because this is going to be an enthralling final 10 minutes.
The pressure is on. He's done the work. He's been put into the situation where he could win, and now you can see chatting away with his race engineer or whoever's there in one of the chats with him. He's going to be fully focused, sweating, tense, shaking, maybe. What a way to end the season this is. We knew the diversity in strategy would cause a bit of a shake-up, but we didn't know it would be between Carl Pierce and Sven van Ruler. Well, it's not for the championship, it's for the race victory. Chris Thacker as well, with Vanderbroek, Van der Linden and Breitenbach all into the pit lane, is looking on course to take the race lead back. There is Timothy Vanderbroek now leaving the pit lane, and Chris Thacker retakes the race lead. So, two different strategies in the Pro-Ams and the AMs, and, well, two ones that have worked so far.
Well, I thought that was actually going to be a bit closer when Vanderbroek got moving. Thacker was still quite a long way away, but Vanderbroek was quite a long way away from the line. Ivo van der Linden, though, has gotten in front of Lewis Boubier. These are the two championship rivals with still something to play for here, but it's not looking likely at the moment for van der Linden. He's not doing all that he can, of course, but I'm sure he's trying his absolute utmost at the moment to finish as best as he possibly can. It does seem that the two rivals are going to have a good fight for fourth place towards the end of this season as well. So there's plenty of stuff going on here in the final moments of this one. I believe we're going to go on to Stuart Reynolds is going to go on to 4 laps to go as he goes over the line next time round. So for the two AM leaders, it's going to be 5 laps to go, and for Carl Pierce, that's about 5 too many.
Yeah, he's going to be wanting to see that checkered flag ASAP. Sven van Ruler, he's going to be hoping these 5 laps stretch as long as possible. It's going to be the shortest 5 laps possible for Sven van Ruler, the longest possible for Carl Pierce. Picture in picture, the fight for the AM leads in the top left, the fight for the Pro-Am 6th place between Ivo van der Linden and Lewis Boubier in the bottom right. The importance there is, of course, these are the top 2 in the championship. Bit of a novelty more than anything in the sense that they're rounding off the season in style. But the fight for 5th place now, as Lewis Boubier is on the back of Ivo van der Linden. Brilliant racing it's been between these two, and, well, 2 fantastic battles to round off the season.
Absolutely, on the left-hand side, Van Ruler getting very close to the Ferrari of Pierce, looking outside, looking inside. Pierce thinks about sort of defending. He's sort of half a car width off of the racing line there down towards turn 10. But Sam Van Ruler not even willing to go through. Now he might go for it, a tower corner. That's a brave one. You don't often see that, and eventually he will just stand on the brakes and make sure that there's no contact. He'll weave around a little bit as well. He's trying to get into the mind of the driver in front of him just a little bit by making these slightly unorthodox moves. And at the moment, Carl Pierce is unfazed by them as Lewis Boubier makes an attempt here.
He does indeed. Brilliant racing still. Lewis Boubier trying to set up the move if he can, with just a handful of laps left to go. What can Carl Pierce do in order to try and hang on? What can Sam Van Ruler do in trying to get his way ahead? Two brilliant battles, four brilliant drivers into the hairpin. Lewis Boubier, is he close enough to go for the move? He's thinking about it. Is he going to go for the send? The answer to that is no. No changes as it stands for fourth place in class, with Ivo van der Linden and Lewis Boubier still putting the pressure on each other. But Carl Pierce, with each lap that ticks by, is one less lap that he has to worry about Sam Van Ruler getting in front.
Yep, it's really counting down now, the final moments of the season. Van der Linden ahead of Boubier in towards turn 10. Chris Thacker looks like he's going to have enough here to take a win, and what a win it will be for him as well if he can just take this one home for the final 3 laps of this race. Just over 6 minutes remaining. Reynolds is going to come over the line again, and we might even have another 4 laps here actually, because he is so far in front of the rest of the field. He might actually have 4 laps remaining, so it could get even worse for Carl Pierce just yet. In towards Le Mans and the final chicane, they'll go in Pro-Am. Boubier with some slightly different lines to try and get in the mirror of the orange BMW in front. Van der Linden goes a little bit wide. Now Boubier's through. You can just see his eyes just looking to the left-hand side. He'll be looking at that BMW alongside him, giving it the room in towards Sunset, but putting it firmly in the rear view in towards and the exit of the corner. There they go. Boubier with the inside line goes a bit too deep actually. He's made a bit of a mistake, and Van der Linden's going to come back at him. Just working the wheel a little bit on the exit. Van der Linden should have a bit of a nicer run onto the front straight, but he won't. And Lewis Boubier will be up to 4th.
Awesome stuff. We're getting told that Stuart Reynolds has had a crash at some point around the circuit. Not entirely sure as that is. There's dust being kicked up at turn 1. That's a Ferrari. Sam Van Ruler's had a problem as well over the curb. No, that's not it. That's fine. Still all good. Stuart Reynolds has only lost a couple of seconds back to Chris Jefferson, so not entirely sure as to what that was. Bit of a scare maybe from our producer. Who knows? We'll update you as soon as we can, of course. But Carl Pierce and Sam Van Ruler are still fighting. Lewis Boubier, Ivo van der Linden dropping off the back, I think, bit by bit. He's still there or thereabouts, but I'm sure Lewis Boubier has got this one under wraps and will stay in front. Here is the fight for the AM lead, however. Handful of laps left to go, and another lap survived for Carl Pierce.
Yep. Over the line again for the 2 AM leaders. Unsure as to what's happened to Stuart Reynolds here. His lead's now down to 30 seconds, though, 29. The lead's coming down massively to Chris Thacker. Are we going to see an overall win for a Pro-Am driver here? Surely not in the final, what should be 2 laps of this race now as a result of that incident. Let's have a look what happened. It's down in towards the hairpin, and surely this... oh, it's dearie me. He's not even looking where he's going there, and he's gone off and around the longer version of the hairpin. It's a classic case, Zach, of simply not looking where he's going or looking at something else.
Yes, we know obviously drivers with 2nd or 3rd monitors, if they're not using it for racing, they often have their Twitter feed or whatever up on the other screen, and they might be, looking at what the latest post has been or whatever it is. I mean, you can very easily get distracted, and as we were talking about earlier, actually, with Stuart Reynolds, with that complacency, everything's, in the bag, everything's done, everyone's signed off, he's dotted the I's and crossed the T's, and he's signed, sealed, and delivered, I think, in terms of his championship and his race win. So quite easy for things to sort of just whiz around in his mind a little bit. We'll take a look as to something else that's happened as well. This is for Conor Kinnaird, who we've not actually looked at all this race, and to turn 1. I think this was the stricken Ferrari that we did see, and he's just looped it around all on his own.
Yeah, and good avoidance there, I think, from Dean Timms, that was, who was just behind. Timms actually not that far in front of... who was that behind? Lewis Boubier and Van der Linden, excuse me, who were fighting for those couple of positions. Bit of a gap now between these two. Couple of laps to go now, and Carl Pierce looks like he's stolen a bit of a march on Sam Van Ruler. and maybe he'll have enough for a race win. It wouldn't be the first race win that Carl Pearce has had this season, but I think this would be the sweetest.
Absolutely. I think to round off the championship, as our producer is very loud, what's happened there? What is going on in terms of something? I think Sam van Ruler has dropped off a little bit, 1.2 seconds back, 1.5 seconds back. Carl Pearce is looking ever more likely to take the final race victory of the season. It won't be the championship along the way, but he's given it a pretty good effort.
He has, as have all of the championship contenders here today. Many of them doing all that they possibly can, especially Carl Pearce, who did need Van Ruler to DNF in the first half of this race, but that's not happened. Pearce has nevertheless gone and won it, just to try and gain what he could. To be fair, it didn't actually matter where he finished as long as he got to 50% and Sam van Ruler didn't. That was all that really mattered, but in the end that has not been the case. There's the battle between Dean Timms and Lewis Boubier, who the championship surely winner now, who's going to be really stretching his legs here in the final moments. Closing on Dean Timms. He wants a podium to round off his season. Don't know if he's quite going to get it. I don't know if this is quite going to be the last lap or the second last. It's going to be very, very close with Stuart Reynolds in the final lap here. But Boubier, I think, is going to run out of time ever so slightly to get this position.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's going to be touch and go. 8/10. It's going to close the gap and then obviously try and get his way ahead as well. So it can be done. Is it going to be done, though, is the other question. I'm sure Lewis Boubier wants to win the championship with the podium. It's not quite a race win, but it's the next best thing, I suppose. Dean Timms obviously isn't going to be too eager to get that up either, but, well, all out, nothing to lose now.
It really is. 1 minute remaining of the season. The IMB World Series League's GT3 Championship pulling to a close. Final minute of Stuart Reynolds' reign over this race. It's been absolutely dominant over the course of the 75 minutes he's undertaken here today at Sebring, and surely he is going to take a race win at the very end. 30 seconds remaining. I'm not sure whether he's going to really open the taps here and make everyone do one more, or whether he's going to slow down and take the checkered flag at his own pace here. But into Sunset Bend, as the sun indeed does go behind the horizon at this late stage in the race. It is going to be final corner for Stuart Reynolds. Still 10 seconds remaining, and he might well end up making everyone do another lap. He's not going to in the end. The checkered flag will wave right on time. In fact, a second early. It's Stuart Reynolds who wins at Sebring and will take the IMB World Series League's GT3 Championship in the Pro category for Season 5. Absolutely dominant from him, and another race win to add to his collection. Chris Thacker is going to get one as well here. His first endurance race win of the season, and thoroughly deserved it as well. Strategized his way to the front, and he's going to take this one by just over 2 seconds. He'll wiggle across the line, flash his lights. He is very, very happy indeed. And at the final corner, it's Dean Timms versus Lewis Boubier, who's really trying to get towards the line. Doesn't quite get on the podium, but he will be champion of the Pro-Am class, almost showing little to no emotion at all, as if he expected it to come at the end of this race, which of course he may well have done here today, knowing that all he had to do was finish half of the laps. Final corners here for the AM drivers as well. Here, Zach, it's close, but looks like it's going to go to Carl Pearce.
Looks like that indeed. He's been fantastic. The championship has been gifted to Sam van Ruler. Of course, he's earned it all season long. Carl Pearce, 1 corner left to go. He's now the strategy. He's now this race, and he takes the final win of Season 5.
In towards Sunset Bend for Carl Pearce. Just watch the emotion for him as he comes out the corner here. He's going to be ecstatic with this win. It's certainly his sweetest one so far. Most well-deserved as well. A head back to relax. He's had a very, very stressful race indeed. He flashes the lights. A fist bump in the air. He's a race winner at Sebring, ahead of Sam van Ruler, who's weaving in excitement as well, because he is a championship winner in the AM category as well, and he is going to pull up at turn 1 and do some donuts, hopefully without hitting anybody else. But there he goes into full swing. What a fantastic end to our season here at Sebring, and what a well-deserved race win for Carl Pearce as well, because we always love how he shows so much emotion in these races, and as I say, this has got to be his best race win yet.
Absolutely. I think he's thoroughly deserved it, as have all 3 of our victors. I think Stuart Reynolds is his most dominant. Chris Thacker, it was one that he made the most of his opportunities, made the most of the strategy. And for Carl Pierce as well, the strategy that he pulled off, defending from Sam Van Ruler for so long as well. Very, very good stuff from all three of our winners and all three of our champions as well. Season 5 has been one to remember. It's one I certainly won't be forgetting anytime soon. What a way to round it off.
Absolutely. 75 minutes of racing complete at Sebring, and let's show you the results after that action here this evening. It is, of course, Stuart Reynolds, the overall and pro race winner, by more than half a minute ahead of Chris Chatterton, Harry Wills, Kaidiel and Hakan Lindmo are all finishing many laps down. And in the end, who's it going to... It's going to be all of them getting points from that one, but even so, it's many laps down indeed at the end. A couple of Pro-Am drivers ending up on the overall podium, by the way. The top two in Pro-Am being Chris Thacker and Timothy Vanderbroek, separated by just over 2 seconds at the end. Dean Timms just fended off Lewis Boubier to the line, with Ivo van der Linden just running out them inside the top 5. Sean Breitenbach 6th, ahead of Francois Purgel. Then it's Marcel Breitenbach, Thomas Pugh and Simon Dodd won't be getting any points. He finished 26 laps down. Finally, 10th overall, and Am winner, Carl Pierce, leads Sam Van Ruler over the line. Tony van der Linden, Jeroen Reigns and Conor Kennard ending up a lap down because of where Stuart Reynolds was in the order. Jarmo Sastermoinen scoring no points for the finale here this season. Well, that's it for all of the racing here this afternoon in the race. Let's pull up our Am race winner, shall we? Carl Pierce, who joins us now. Carl, welcome to the booth. Congratulations on the win. Tell us how you're feeling after that.
Oh, it's so overwhelming. It's I'm kind of speechless, to be fair. It's getting a race win on the final round is it's absolutely amazing, and getting second place in the championship is freaking awesome, man. It's so good. It's a great feeling. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm just really happy about it, man. I'm really, really happy.
And in terms of the season as a whole here, looking back at this, I mean, we were saying there that this is probably your best performance so far. You've had some good ones so far, but this is probably the best one because you went so toe-to-toe with Sam Van Ruler. Would you say that is the case? Would you pick out another one?
Oh no, this has got to be one of my best performances, and I'm really hoping to get better for next season for sure. But yeah, no, I'm really proud of myself for pushing myself out there and really putting in the time for the practice, spending a lot of time on car setups in every round. Yeah, I think it's paid off, and yeah, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So.
Yeah, congratulations to you, Carl. It was fantastic to see you win here this evening, and we look forward to seeing you next season.
Thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Carl Pierce, their winner in the AM category, just ahead of Sam Van Ruler, who is an AM champion confirmed here this evening. Sam, welcome to the booth. Good to have you here once again. Donuts at the end for you. You're an AM champion. Tell us how you feel after that Sebring race.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Oh, it took a second. My Discord.
That's all right. Okay. Sorry, you didn't? Did you hear me?
No, I did not hear anything.
Oh, sorry. I thought you'd heard me. I was just congratulating you really on your championship win. Tell us a little bit about how you feel after completing that race now.
Thanks a lot. I feel absolutely amazing. This race was a great ender. Congratulations to Carl. He deserved that win a lot. Like he did absolutely amazing with the strategy, and yeah, he just deserved that win. So congratulations to him. I'm just happy that I won the championship. That's enough for me. It was a cool championship ender. We got some action, I think, in all the classes, and yeah, I'm really happy because obviously, yeah, I won the championship. So nothing can break me at the moment.
Absolutely, even a second place is absolutely fine by you, I can imagine. In terms of the season as a whole, what would you pick out as sort of a highlight in terms of a round maybe you particularly enjoyed in terms of racing or in terms of driving performance that was best for you? What would you pick out from the season?
Round 1, Nürburgring, the Nordschleife race, because I came in that race. I came in this whole like I haven't done any previous seasons, so I came in this league not really knowing what to expect, and then I did that race and I won it by 1 minute and 10 seconds, which was my biggest lead this entire season, and it was just the perfect like I got 0 X's throughout that entire race. It was the most beautiful part of racing that I've ever done. 75 minutes of just perfection, in my opinion. So that was just a highlight for me.
Well, congratulations on a fantastic season here, Sem, and enjoy your championship win.
Well, thank you guys for the commentating. It was amazing.
Thanks very much. Sem van Ruler there joining us, AM champion here this season. Let's bring in pro champion now, Stuart Reynolds, who also won this race overall. Stuart, congratulations on the win and the championship as well. Tell us a little bit about what you were thinking going into this race, though, with such a margin over the rest of the field. How much pressure were you putting on yourself to actually win this race, or were you just looking to get through it and not crash?
I was just looking through it to get and not crash, to be honest. I know hardly any of the pros turned up, so I knew even if I finished last, I'd still win the championship. So,
absolutely. In terms of the season as a whole, how have you found it here? There's been a few less pros in the championship, but Chris Charlton's still giving you a run for your money at times as well. How do you reflect on the season as a whole?
it's been a very good season. Chris has definitely given me a run for my money. He's done some fantastic races, especially Bathurst with his one stopper. I don't know how he managed that. But yeah, he definitely kept me on my toes through the season.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Stuart, on your championship win and the race win tonight as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Stuart Reynolds there, winner in the race and the Pro Championship overall. The Pro-Am Championship went to Lewis Boubier, and that was confirmed today as well. 4th place today, Lewis. Welcome to the booth. How do you feel that race went as a whole, though? Because you had that spin, of course, when you were leading a little bit earlier on. Are you tend to a little bit of disappointment, but now that you've won the championship, do you just maybe not care?
Yeah, I was a bit confused by that spin. That was always the line I took, and it just spat me out into a spin. But it allowed me to have some fantastic racing today. I knew where Ivo was. As long as I made it past halfway, I was kind of going to be champion. So I had some great battles with Ivo, with some other people, and I had probably a lot more fun than just putting it on pole and leading every lap. So I'm not glad I had a spin, but you know, it did make it interesting for me.
Silver lining to it, we'll put it that way. Season as a whole for you here, Lewis, it's a championship winning season, of course, as well. But this Pro-Am Championship has been fantastic, and the Pro-Am races as well have been really great to watch. Probably the pick of the bunch from the field this season. Which round would you say that you maybe enjoyed the most?
Hard to say. I'd probably go with Le Mans after the first 2 races, which were a little bit disappointing. Then missing Imola to come back for the sort of start of the mid-season second half, and put it on pole overall, and then lead start to finish, and just sort of put my mark on the championship. So I'm here now. I'm ready to race.
Absolutely. Lewis, congratulations on the championship here tonight, and thanks very much for chatting to us.
Excellent. Thanks for all the hard work you've done all season. It's been very entertaining.
Thanks very much. Our pleasure. Lewis Boubier there, Pro-Am winner this season, championship winner. We'll now pull in Jeroen Reins, who's P3 in the AM Championship here at the end of this race, and P4 here today as well. Jeroen, welcome to the booth. How did you find your race at Sebring today?
Was a tough race. I could follow the first couple of laps with the faster guys, but then once they broke the toe with me, then I was just getting along, just couldn't get as fast as those guys. But yeah, not my best track here.
No, possibly not. And what about the championship now as well? You didn't quite get second place ahead of Carl Pearce, who had a fantastic race today and ended up winning. You'll be third in the championship, but is that still a positive result for you in your mind?
Oh yeah, very positive. I still remember our first interview when you asked what position I would like to be in, and I said I would like to get on the podium. And look, we're on the podium, so I'm really happy with that result.
Absolutely, you can't be complaining at all. Jeroen, congratulations on achieving that this season, and thanks for coming to chat to us after every race as well.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much. Jeroen Reins there, chatting to us after third place being achieved in the AM Championship. Harry Wills is going to be able to join us here at the very end, which is absolutely fantastic. Harry, welcome in. Good to have you here. Talk a little bit about your race first of all, just before we just briefly. Maybe you don't want to.
I'd
but I'll
rather you
ask
didn't. Yeah, go on.
I'll ask anyway. Just tell us a little bit about how you found Sebring here this evening.
I really struggled with that. So I obviously I've got the US Championship later, and to be honest with you, I kind of used this. I mean, obviously my championship well and truly is done and dusted, so to speak, before I came in here. So I thought, well, I'll try a few things with the car into the race, and every single click, turn, and everything we did was probably the wrong way. So made it handle like a psychopath, which was great. And then it wasn't very good. So I've got some serious work to do for the next one. But yeah, it was it wasn't the best, was it really?
Well, you can't win them all, I suppose. Let's talk about this season as a whole from an admin's perspective here, which of course you're heavily involved in the running of the series. How has it been from that side of things on this occasion?
It's been tricky. It's been a very up and down season behind the scenes. I think it's a lot of things kind of came to a bit of a head with this season with drivers from previous seasons and everything like that coming into it, and there's been a lot of tension built up from previous seasons and stuff like that, and then it's really gone out there, and I think it's made for some really good racing to watch. It's made for some great racing to be a part of. It has been a fantastic season. It's been a very close season at the top flight of the championships in AM and Pro-Am. Pro, obviously, we've got certain Mr. Reynolds down there who seems to be just on fire with that Lambo. So it's been great. I mean, it's great to see it. Great for people to come and involve with and all that. It's been fantastic.
And it's been great to be a part of covering it once again. So thanks very much for all that you do behind the scenes, Harry, and thanks for chatting to us as well after the race.
No, thank you very much. I want to say a massive thank you to you guys for putting the show on. You guys do an absolutely fantastic job with the broadcast, with the commentating, and I think we'll get this season closed off, get everything sorted, lines dotted, I's crossed, and all that jazz, and we're going to be moving on. Yeah, all that sort of stuff.
Not T's crossed. No.
Well, we can. I tell you what, we can cross those as well. Why not? We'll cross all of them. So we'll get everything done and dusted, and put the door shut on this one. And I really think we've got some ideas for the next season, and I think we've got some big changes coming. Of how far we go with those changes is a bit, it's a little bit scary, but I think we really want to mix it up into next season. And who knows? You may even see some driver swaps. You may see some different tracks. Who knows what's on the agenda? But there's a lot of conversations to be had in the next coming few days, and just stay tuned for next season because it is. We'll make that one better than ever.
Absolutely, and we've got every faith that you will. Thanks very much for chatting to us, Harry. We'll let you go now, and enjoy a bit of time off as well after the season.
You're not wrong. I'm looking forward to that already. Get my Wednesday nights back. I think it's like this written rule in the house where Wednesday nights just don't even bother talking to me. So, no, guys, thank you very much again. Thank you to all the drivers as well. Obviously, it wouldn't be a series without people turning up every week and those guys that do come in and race. I really hope everyone has enjoyed it. Really hope everyone's had a good time coming and race with us. And I genuinely wish to see every single person back in the series moving forward. So, yeah, guys, thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Harry Wills there talking to us after the race here at Sebring this evening. Well, Zach, that's just about going to do it for us this evening. Hopefully Harry Wills can go away and learn the alphabet now and stop crossing I's and instead dot them instead, and maybe cross some T's as well. We'll wait and see how that works. But it's been a fantastic season to be a part of once again, and we're looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely. Really am looking forward to it. So Harry Wills has got to learn how to keep the car pointing the right way and also, as you said, the alphabet. Fantastic stuff. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, from the European side, that is going to bring an end to Season 5. But what a way to round things off. What the last 10 weeks have brought us as well. So much action, so many thrills, and a roller coaster of emotions for so many. Sebring has rounded it off. But for those still interested, maybe in the IMB World Series League GT3, the Americans take to Sebring in a few hours' time. Very, very close. Carl Boss and Harry Wills only separated by 3 points in the Pro Championship, with the Pro-Ams and the AMs separated by not very much as well. So if you're down for some more championship drama, definitely stay tuned in a few hours' time. But for myself, Zach Sweeney, Leary, Daniel Costello, throughout the season, we've also had David Christie and Alex Goldschmidt coming in to help us out as well. From us, in the broadcast booth, it's a very warm bye-bye.